Ba-na-na-na-na-na, ba-na-na-na-na-na-na. That's a deep cut for the real fans. Do you guys not recognize that?
No, I don't.
No.
Oh,
That's
that's
our
our
intro.
it's our old
It's
intro.
our old intro. The
shitty fucking song.
Hopefully, I don't get copyrighted for that.
By us. Yeah.
Well, I mean, we didn't compose that.
That's true. But I think it was like
It was like
It
a
was
free-
yeah, it's free.
hey, we had a fucking thing. What's it
A
called?
thing?
I don't know.
We got the
thing.
rights to it.
Oh,
Yeah.
yay.
And Philip had the website.
Oh, fancy.
Oh, yeah.
Copyrighted by.
I listened to one song and I chose it, and that just happened to be it.
Yeah.
Hi, everyone, and welcome back to Half a Clue Movie Review. I'm Blake.
Ron, hey.
I'm Jason.
And I'm Miles.
Welcome to week 4 of Kino-vember. That is Kino November. Kino meaning the cream of the crop. You've heard me say this for 4 times now if you've been consecutively listening. This week was Jason's pick. Jason, what is your pick for Kino-vember?
I picked The Graduate.
You see, that's an interesting pick because it's a good movie.
Yeah, it is.
Not everyone got the memo. Last week we watched Commander Master or whatever.
Oh my God.
That was a good movie.
Hey, the people
it
have
was
spoken. They
enjoyable.
liked that.
Yeah.
It's a good movie.
Yeah, some guy had sex to the soundtrack.
That's what's a better endorsement than that?
But why this pick, Jason?
Mainly because I just wanted to rewatch it. I watched it like a decade ago, and like the second it ended, I was like, I need to watch this again, and then I just never did.
Yeah,
So,
it's funny. I also really love this movie, and it was based on your recommendation about a decade ago. You were like, "Oh, you should watch this movie," and I was like, "Okay." And it's fast became one of my favorites.
Yeah.
I think it's one of the most purposefully shot films I've ever seen. It's gorgeous, has a great soundtrack. So I'm excited that you picked a good movie, Jason.
Yeah.
What an idea.
Okay, yeah.
I liked Master and Commander as well.
I did
Like,
too.
Thank you.
I don't hate Master and Commander. I just, Kino.
Yeah, you're
it's
just
your-
too much of a normie, Blake.
I don't think I'm a normie.
Kino, in Blake's definition, is just a movie that he likes.
Yeah.
That's
It
not
has to be
true.
miserable. That's
That's
Yeah.
not true. I don't just like miserable movies. It's okay.
I don't know. So far, all the ones that you're like, oh yeah, that's true Kino have been pretty miserable.
This is true, Kino. I mean, this is kind of
It
miserable.
This is miserable,
That's what
dude.
I'm saying. Yeah.
All right, Ron, you're the history background guy. Would you like to historic us?
Yeah. Call me Ron Historicus. Okay. Plug your nose, because today we're diving into one of the defining films of the 1960s.
Oh.
The Graduate, a movie that not only captured the spirit of the era but helped shape it. Released in 1967, right at the height of the counterculture movement, this film is a perfect reflection of a generation questioning authority, seeking independence, and challenging social norms. A breakout role for Dustin Hoffman, whose portrayal of Benjamin Braddock, a young man caught in the throes of a quarter-life crisis, became iconic. His awkwardness, confusion, and search for meaning in a world that felt both overwhelming and empty resonated with a whole generation of young people coming of age in a post-baby boom America, and very much resonates today. I think that's the real beauty of this movie. Is it really it stands the test of time?
It's
you know?
eternal.
Well,
It
you know
does.
what? I feel like it more so resonates again today.
Yeah.
You know, like I feel like
We've circled back to
yeah,
that,
we've circled
like,
back
kind
to
of-
where it really is hitting that height. You know, with
Yeah.
you've got a lot of people getting out of college nowadays, and they think that
What
that's kind of the end goal, and they're like, well, I accomplished it. I achieved the goal. What do I do now?
I don't know how many elections now that people like. One of the big talking points is fucking like debt relief and everything. Like it's a hot issue that I don't think people really know how to deal with yet, and it's clearly been a thing for a long time. But
Yeah.
So, directed by Mike Nichols, he won the Academy Award for Best Director. The film was based on the 1963 novel by Charles Webb. Our third film in a row, by the way, that is a book adaptation. Just
We're so smart.
Yeah, I know, right?
And
yeah.
actually, the one that was the Forago had a book based off of it.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, that's true. Yeah,
Pan's Labyrinth?
they
Yeah.
made a book into that.
Yeah.
Nicholas's direction brought a fresh, irreverent tone to the screen that was innovative as it was timely. The movie became an instant hit at the time of its release. It was the third highest-grossing film of all time, an impressive
Wow.
feat that helped cement its place in cinematic history. Yeah, I was very surprised by that. That it was like not just a success, but like a huge success. That's awesome. Like I don't know.
Jason, do I not recall you telling me a long time ago that this movie is also really important because it was like kind of relatively indie compared to other budgets of movies that year or something? I swear I remember you telling me something like that.
Maybe I said that. I don't know. I don't know. I don't remember half the shit I ever said.
Recall something you said 10 years ago.
And I think it's also of the era.
Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
Oh, I think it's also of the era, and why it was so successful in that time is because we had a lot of stuff going on, like the Vietnam conflict and things like that, where a lot of those movies that were covering social commentary were so focused on that side of the social commentary, right? And they don't mention Vietnam or what's happening there once in this movie.
No.
Right? And I think that as a form of escapism, being able to go to the movies, see something about society and social commentary without having that overwhelm the conversation was something that people were really looking for at the time, because it was draining at that point, this was 1967, right?
Yeah.
A lot of shit had gone down by that
60s
point.
were a turbulent time.
Yeah.
I think also just that it's like it's purely from the young generation's perspective too. There's a lot of like the older generation and how they were handling it, but this was like the 60s were like a real birth for young people making their mark and having their voices heard and everything. So it's I don't know, again, very timely for it. It's a rare film that really kind of captures, I think, the life and the thoughts of a lot of young people in that time, which is great. Of course, we can't talk about The Graduate without mentioning the unforgettable soundtrack featuring the timeless music by Simon and Garfunkel. Their songs like The Sound of Silence and Mrs. Robinson became synonymous with the film and with the era itself.
Would have been better if it was Disturbed, huh, Miles?
First of all, I do like the Simon and Garfunkel version for this movie, but overall, I will say that Disturbed did something very interesting with their.
So they do like Nosferatu, where like the Disturbed does like a redo of like the Graduate soundtrack.
I think that would be kind of interesting. That might be cool.
Someone just edit the Graduate to the Disturbed version instead.
Yeah,
I'm sure
someone
there's an edit online.
Yeah.
Find.
There's an AI version out there of just the Disturbed covering all of Simon and Garfunkel's.
Hey, I do need to bring up, because we need to correct this. I looked on YouTube after we did our what video
Old
was
Boy,
that?
I think.
After we did our Old Boy video, and guess who has like 4 times more views on YouTube?
Oh,
The Disturbed version.
wow.
Yeah, it has 1 billion views, but also like
But all I was saying is, which version's more recognizable to people?
Simon and
I still
Garfunkel
think it's
Yes.
easily,
Simon and
dude.
Garfunkel.
Yes,
Easily.
absolutely.
Especially in 1967.
I still remember when you first said that, you were like, sometimes new is more recognizable, like the Disturbed version. I was like, what the fuck are you talking about?
I'd never even heard of that
I didn't even know
before.
Disturbed had a cover of fucking the Simon and Garfunkel song.
I will say, when I did look it up and I saw 1 billion views, I'm like, fuck, Miles.
It was disturbing, to say the least.
Disturbing?
Oh, wow. Yeah.
Okay, David Grushin's original score to the soundtrack perfectly captures the emotional landscape of a young man lost. So we have it's not just Simon and Garfunkel. There is a bit of an original. Well, they're both mostly original tracks. Or it's all mostly original except for I think Scarborough Fair.
Yeah, Scarborough Fair.
Scarborough Fair. Yeah, that's like the one of their older tracks they placed in there, but it fit so well that they decided to keep it in, and it's so fitting.
In that interview that we were watching, where he was like, "Well, yeah, we wanted to make new music, but this song just fits so well, that they put it in."
Which I've heard is a thing that certain directors or I'm trying to think, composers hate when people put in placeholder songs for because directors will often be like, look, I just put this placeholder song so that way you kind of get the feeling that they want, and they hate that shit because they're just because then it just becomes them trying to make the composer sound like this other type of music, and they're like, don't do that shit. Just let us figure it out.
That reminds me of I think it was for Django Unchained, Ennio Morricone, who I'm sure you guys all know, the great late.
Yeah, he's a nice guy.
Late
Morricone, yes.
Ennio Morricone, the late and great composer. He composed Django Unchained for Quentin Tarantino, and he at the time said he would never work with Quentin Tarantino again because there's a part in that movie where I think they're on their horses, and it's Ennio Morricone's crazy orchestral score, and then it gets hard cuts into hardcore hip hop.
Yeah.
And it just really bothered him, but he did eventually come back and work with Tarantino again for The Hateful Eight.
Yeah, I mean, Ennio Morricone is such a
classical,
old school, film like composer and everything. That I imagine you'd
Be like,
that'd
what
drive
the
him nuts.
fuck is this?
Yeah, and like specifically Tarantino, he's a dude who like loves licensed music and like he reuses old film soundtracks. And everything.
He does it very well
Yeah.
too.
I feel like he would be somebody who would be very hard to work with, though, because it's like when he decides something, that's it. You know, he makes the decision, and that's the direction that things are going, and everybody else just kind of has to follow.
Well,
I mean, he's kind of earned that right.
Oh,
though.
he has.
Yeah,
No, I'm not saying it's unearned. I'm just saying like it's tough to work with somebody like that because like a lot of times you're going to want a different direction or feel strongly about something, and it's like, nope, too bad.
Yeah.
it's he's a wow. There's a fucking thing. There's a name for it. It's really annoying film term. Or it's like auteur.
Yeah.
Auteur director, which means he just
Gets to do what he wants.
yeah, basically.
I mean, I think he's a genius with his music, and this movie is also a genius work of music.
Yeah, it's I think it's funny that like watching the interview with Paul Simon, where he was like talking about how he was basically just riffing and just coming up with Mrs. Robinson like on the spot and everything, which is crazy to me. And then you cut to like Hans Zimmer, who's like in the lab, like incorporating like all these like super obscure like soundtracks, like razor blades on like guitar strings and shit for like a year as he's like meticulously creating a soundtrack. It's like there's so many different approaches you can come from it. It's like, it's more what the film needs, I think. And this movie
That's a great soundtrack.
it works so well. It's paired beautifully, and it kind of really just breathes so much life.
This might be one of my favorite like film soundtracks of all time.
It's up there.
Because it just works so well with the movie.
Yeah.
And it really comes down to like 3 songs, I believe.
Yeah, basically.
Right?
Yeah.
Yeah,
much.
because you have Mrs. Robinson, Sound of Silence, and Scarborough Fair.
Yeah.
And Sound of Silence is repeated like 3 times, Scarborough Fair's twice, Mrs. Robinson's only actually sung once, but
there's
it's
a-
whistled.
it's
broken up a
and
few
it's,
times.
It's
Yeah.
the driving portion.
yeah.
Yeah. I
really
think there might be one other one I forget, but basically it's like just very few songs that are just broken up into their different parts, whether it's just the vocals, the instruments or something, and it works so well.
And like that montage at like the halfway point in the movie, it's the second time they use Sound of Silence, and then it cuts into what's the other song called?
That's when it cuts into Scarborough Fair.
Like that's like maybe my favorite like movie montage of all time, and a huge part of that is like the music, and just how it helps transition those scenes, right? Like you see him walk up and close the door, and then suddenly he's in like a different room, and then he's like on the pool, like drifting through life. Then that music just elevates it so much, so fucking good.
And it really manages to portray throughout the entire film the proper amount of melancholy for the scene that you're in, right?
Yeah.
Because they're all very, even though the lyrics are not depressing and things like that, when you really look at them,
I mean, Sound of Silence is.
Yeah.
a little bit, yeah.
It's 100% a depressing song.
Well,
It's one of my favorite
Hello,
Christmas
darkness,
songs.
my old friend.
is that a comedy song, Miles?
No, it's a Christmas song. No, if you listen to it sounds like a Christmas song.
No,
like,
it doesn't.
Yes, it does.
Maybe Scarborough Fair sounds like a Christmas
No.
song. 'Cause it has like the ding ding, like tingle.
No, it sounds. I swear to you, it sounds like it would fit perfectly into any Christmas like song mix.
Oh, fuck.
I don't know, dude.
Yeah.
Okay.
I swear to you, it's one of my favorite Christmas songs.
Mom
I've said
kissing
this for
Santa
years.
Claus, going to "Hello, darkness, my old friend."
But no, I'm talking about like what's that, like a Fair Noel. I don't know the other names of Christmas songs, but like the deeper, more like
They definitely
choral
tap
Christmas
into
music.
the
Yeah.
dark coldness of Christmas.
Yes.
Anyway,
Why are we getting into an argument over this? I'm sorry.
Why not? I like it.
okay. Do you guys want to go through the plot or
The plot.
the plot,
The plot.
the story?
The plot.
I guess we can. Yeah.
No.
I mean, I figured we'd just be done now.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
No.
Sorry.
Bye.
See you next week.
Blake's got to go back to sleep.
It's Sunday, and they made me wake up early.
It's fucking 12:30.
Sundays are meant to be slept in.
Oh my god.
It is currently 1:04 p.m.
Sundays, yeah, but I had to get up early to, like brush my teeth and stuff.
I'm
Got
sorry.
up 45 minutes ago.
Okay. All right. So let's get into it. So
Okay.
at the beginning of the film, we start off with The Sound of Silence playing as
Christmas
Ben.
song.
Yeah, the best Christmas song. As Ben is he's coming back from the airport, and I love that he's on the
Conveyor belt.
conveyor belt thing, the walking
Yeah.
escalator, as like everything's kind of just whizzing past him.
Maybe my favorite, or not my favorite, but one of my favorite title card sequences and opening scenes to a movie ever. I kind of feel like that scene is a metaphor for the whole movie, right? It's him being pulled by forces that are out of his control and him just kind of, along for the ride. Like there's that great shot right after too, where it cuts to his luggage and it's just like, he kind of is that luggage, right? Just being, he's a thing being pulled apart. Love that opening scene.
He's basically just going through the momentum of life.
I think it's very important because, he has just graduated college, right? And even though he was...
Oh, really? I must have missed that plot point. I'm just kidding.
and you can tell that he was kind of pushed through college and the early portion of his life kind of at the direction of his parents.
Yeah.
And this is kind of the point where he's recognized as an adult and he's told, okay, time for you to make your own decisions now, right?
Yeah.
And he doesn't know how to deal with that, right? So he's just waiting to be told what to do.
Like, all right, now do life. It's
yeah.
like, okay.
And so now he's literally like throughout this whole thing, you get like a bunch of people suggesting things to him and things like
I
that.
got one word for you.
Plastics.
Yes. Which, mind you, plastics weren't big back then. Back then, they still had tin cans with like seams on the top and bottom and side.
This
right,
is
for soda.
definitely like when plastics
yeah.
were like becoming like everywhere. Like, they were just like kind of becoming everywhere. It's like now if someone basically that equivalent would be someone like, cryptocurrency
or AI.
yeah, AI.
Yeah.
It's like, what about AI? It's like, AI, figure it out, dude. Like,
Yeah. Or if
like-
somebody in the 80s said computers.
Yes, dude. When I was young, that was like the one thing my parents used to tell me, to like, you should do computers. And
Exactly,
It's like,
yeah.
what do you mean?
Do
It's like,
computers.
it's like just figure out to get work in computers. And I'm just like, I don't like that's so far from what like I like to do. But they're just like, just figure out computers, and then that'll just be money. And I'm just like, okay. And honestly, they're probably right.
Yeah.
I mean, so was this guy. Plastics was obviously a massive success.
Yeah.
We have them all in our bodies right
He was
now.
just giving our boy some good advice.
He was
Yeah.
just trying. So after the escalator scene, we cut to probably one of the most famous shots of the the fish tank. We see a little scuba man and everything.
Which is really well framed because
Yes.
it really keeps Dustin Hoffman's face the only face that you can really see. All the other faces of his father and his mom and things like that are shadowed or turned away.
But then we
where
get
it's
also
really focused on him.
so this film, one of the things that just like it's so, again, we said it before, it's like the beautiful cinematography. It's one of the most purposely shot films ever. And in this frame, this like little 10-second clip, you get so much of that. You see the juxtaposition of like, Ben's sitting right in front of the fish tank. It's a lot of foreground and background imagery like on top of each other, and we get to see his parents like literally take over the whole frame. Like his dad steps in and like covers like half his face, and then his mom comes in and like covers the entire screen, as you just hear them talking to him, and you just picture him just like basically being smothered.
Yeah, I mean that's a lot of that whole like party sequence as well.
And-
He's just being smothered by everyone who wants to talk to him, and all he's trying to do is just get away and get away.
And the I've always saw like that shot too. The purpose of putting him in front of like the fish tank is that he's kind of is the fish tank. He's like this object for other people to just like observe.
or he's
Yeah.
in the
Well,
I took it as though he's in the fish tank.
Yeah, like he's underwater.
There's
I
a
mean,
lot of
yeah.
water imagery
Yeah.
throughout the
Yeah, he's always in the pool. He's got that scuba fucking
Yeah.
suit.
I don't know. I've always taken it as like he's becoming this like this thing for this object for other people to like just stare at, kind of, because he's the object of like affection at that party. Everybody wants to talk to him. I love that moment where the old ladies are talking to him. And he's like, I'm just kind of disturbed generally about my future. Great. Every shot has so much going on in it where you could just interpret so many different things. That's part of what I've just fucking loved this movie so much.
Oh yeah.
We as he's going through the party scene, there's a lot of that like the shaky cam, like handheld camera stuff. We get to see was like that sad clown portrait.
Yeah.
I love that thing. I want that fucking poster.
Honestly, I love that that's the first thing you see after he walks out of his room. It really like frames him
Sad
as
clown.
he's
Yeah.
you know, that's like who he is at this point. He's just a sad clown, or at least that's how he feels about himself.
Great visual storytelling. In
Yeah.
those first 5 minutes, you immediately understand where Ben's head is at, how he's like treated by his parents, and like basically the whole environment that's kind of put him into this position. Great. And then he basically retreats directly up to his room and just runs away. Where we get more kind of water imagery. To get the refractions from the pool and from the fish tank that kind of like creates this underwater look, like inside of his bedroom, which I really like. And then, boom, Mrs. Robinson just kind of makes her way into his room and pushes her way into his life. She's immediately like, would you put the cigarette on his bed or
Yeah.
something?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think the important thing there is that she really starts telling him what to do, and kind of instead of people just gently nudging him one way or another or asking him what his plans are, she's pushing him, right? She's like, nope, you're going to do this, you know?
Yeah.
And I think that that's like he had been looking for that, and that's why he's so easily kind of corrupted by it.
I get that,
to a
yeah,
certain
because
extent.
it's
Yeah.
a lot of people, like young people, and people who don't have direction in life. That's what a lot of us yearn, is that real sense of purpose, or is somebody like putting you on a path. You're like, this is what you're supposed to do, because that's what we're basically taught through like our whole school system. Is we just do the class, do the tests, do the homework, and then you'll just keep progressing. And then once you're done, then you're just, I don't know,
Yeah.
you'll figure it out now.
And I mean, like, that's also why like people join cults and stuff, is because sometimes it's kind of in human nature to, if you don't know what you want to do,
You want to be told.
you want to be told what to do. Yeah.
Bad time.
So you're good.
And then Miss Robinson basically demands that Ben
takes her
takes her home. Once she does, she does everything she can to get him to get inside that house, up the stairs, in the bedroom. She starts like undressing
Yeah.
and everything, and
And,
he's freaking out.
Well, you're missing one of the best lines in the movie.
What?
You're trying to seduce me, Mrs. Robinson.
yes. That whole sequence is one of the again.
It's so fucking funny.
It's
Yeah.
so
Yeah.
great.
Because it's so obvious that she is, and then she's like, "I'm not trying to seduce you," and then he's
He's like
instantly
drunkenly laughing. He's like, ha, 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 as he's like stumbling and fumbling around. He's like, I don't know. He doesn't know how to handle it.
We
at
should
all.
mention like how good Dustin Hoffman is.
Oh,
too.
yeah.
He's so like neurotic and kind of like a weirdo.
Yeah.
Because he's a really weird main character, and he really nails that.
Yeah.
he's like
He's so
super
funny.
socially awkward.
Yeah.
It's like a good type of socially awkward though, for the most part.
Yeah, no,
Yeah.
definitely. It captures that kind of young frame of mind where it's like, I don't know, if you're getting really pressed by an adult, it's tough to like, figure
your
out
ground, yeah.
exactly, yeah.
Yeah.
So I heard that Robert Redford actually auditioned to play Ben.
Really?
And the director,
Mike Nichols.
Mike Nichols, said no. He was like, no, you can't do it. And he's like, why not? And he was like, you basically don't have that like vulnerability, that type of like thing. And then he's like, let me put it this way. It's like, have you ever struck out with a girl? And he's like, what do you mean? And he was like, exactly. Like, it's like
You needed an awkward main character for this.
exactly. It's somebody like Dustin Hoffman, he's kind of short. He's not bad looking, but he's not the most handsome. He's not Robert Redford, basically.
He's very I don't want to say average looking. He's above average looking in this movie, but like he just feels way more relatable
Yeah.
than Robert Redford, who's
Yeah.
like this fucking god amongst men.
I will say it's interesting to look at where his awkwardness is primarily directed, where it's primarily directed at adults who he's now technically peers with because he's an adult also now, right? And he's being considered part of the society, and he doesn't know how to handle it because he's still in the mindset of, oh, I'm still a kid.
Yeah.
These are all my parents' friends, and
Like-
these are all adults, but they're expecting him to interact on like an adult level with them now, and he doesn't know how to do that. And I think that drives a lot of his awkwardness.
Definitely. I like there was like an interview with Dustin Hoffman where he was talking about when he was like sitting in the makeup chair for the first time. They're trying to like get him ready for this, and the Mike Nichols was like, he's like, what are we gonna do about his nose? And they're like putting makeup on his nose. Like, how about his neck? Because his neck is too thick. So he's like, okay. And he was like, it was the most degrading experience of my life to that point. Because they're basically like, how do we make this frumpy looking dude not like, somewhat attractive? But obviously he's fine. Okay, so then we get the scene where she finally, she takes him upstairs, or she makes him go upstairs. And I forgot to mention, there's the background, like you see the wardrobe works so great because she's always like in animal patterns and everything. And in the background, she's juxtaposed against like all that like jungle vegetation in the back, just really showing how like,
She's a cougar.
She's a cougar, and she's going after this like young prey.
Is she the original cougar?
I can think of. I don't know. When
I wonder
Harry-
where that term came from.
Yeah.
I'm gonna look it up.
I don't know. That would be really interesting if the term cougar
I don't think it
came from this movie.
No. I think that. But when she takes him upstairs, eventually she gets naked and she tells him how she's available to him and everything.
So I will say that scene where she's naked right there, and it's kind of flashing back and forth between
Yeah.
Oh, it's so well
perspectives, and the way that it's framed, where they show for like snaps, like microseconds, like
When he's, like,
her
kinda
body
eyeing her,
and stuff.
like-
But the way that her body is framed, it kind of like superimposes itself onto the actual shot when it snaps back.
Yeah, it's a lot of quick cuts.
Yeah, and it's weird because it's like you feel like it's still there lingering in the background.
Yeah.
even though it's not. Yeah,
It's because it's almost like it reminds me of those image tests where you like stare at a dot.
Yeah.
And then you like look away and it's just kind of burned into your
Exactly,
into your
right?
eyes
Yeah.
for a second because it flashes boobs, flashes her abdomen, and then almost like shows like lower. But she's like he's too like you cut to him back and forth like trying not to look down because he's so uncomfortable because it's like young man how he's like fighting his urges and everything.
yeah.
It's great. Shout out to the editor.
Yeah,
Sam
so
Osteen.
Jason, did you find out origin of cougar, or were you able to find it?
It originated in Vancouver, British Columbia, as a derogatory term for older women who would go to bars and end up with whoever they wanted to for the night. It was, it may have first appeared in print on the Canadian dating website CougarDate.com as early as 1999.
Okay, so this predates cougars.
Yes.
Yeah.
So we could theoretically call her the original cougar.
Maybe.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah,
I
why
think
not?
like maybe the metaphor is predator.
Yeah.
Like not
Yeah.
not like that kind of predator, but
But
you
yes.
know,
And she is preying on him.
yeah, like
Yeah.
a predator about to go for her kill.
She's preying on this young man who is, vulnerable, we'll say. So then Mr. Robinson comes home, and I love how he like runs downstairs, like pretends to drink. He's like, "Oh, hey, I'm just drinking at the bar. Like, what's up?"
Mr.
Like, you're okay? And he's just like covered in sweat. Like,
Then Mr. Robinson forces him to have another drink.
Yeah, he's like,
Not
"Drink."
just another drink, but the wrong drink. He's like,
Yeah.
yeah, I want bourbon. And he's like, okay, scotch. And, gives him
and he also
scotch.
does that later in the
Yeah,
movie as well.
It's great.
And then we get the framing. It's like a reverse framing. We're looking outside or back into the living room, and it's a much more like there's black and white. There's like it's a harsher lighting too, like much darker lighting on both the characters. As he's telling him like basically, hey man, I want you to go out with my daughter. Date my daughter. And it like you see him just like, oh god, it's like, oh, but first like soil your oats. Get out there, just have a fling. It's like, don't you think you should have a fling? She's like, oh,
He kind
yes.
of takes his advice.
Oh, he does.
In a way.
And also, this is one of the things that you notice throughout the film. Pretty much every time that you see Mr. Robinson, he's drunk.
They're both, they're both like,
Yeah.
Alcoholics.
Like,
pretty trashed, yeah.
yeah. I mean, she even claims that she's an alcoholic, like at the beginning.
She says she calls herself a former alcoholic, which I think is interesting.
Yeah. Well, and I mean, if you look at the connotations of the time with like alcoholism, and we're coming off of, I mean, the Great Depression wasn't that recent, but then you had what's it called, Prohibition and things like that.
Yeah, it was
Right.
like 30 years prior or something.
Yeah, where I mean, so there was still that lingering mentality of like there's a little bit of
Stigma?
stigma against drinking excessive alcohol and stuff in certain social groups, but
Definitely
in this higher
admitting
end,
a problem, too.
But in these higher end social groups, there was also the idea of 3 martini lunches, where if you go out with a client or something, you're kind of expected to both get kind of shit-faced.
Yeah.
And it's,
And the idea of drinking and driving wasn't an issue for anyone back then.
Yeah.
so it's a very
I don't think that was
weird
even a
social
law
time.
yet. I might be wrong.
No, it wasn't. I could be wrong, but I think it was like the 80s when fucking DUIs came into it.
It's like you didn't have to wear seatbelts at this point. Like it's one of my favorite. Like it makes me want to watch Mad Men because it takes place right at this time. But there's like a scene where like they get in a drunk driving accident. No one's wearing a fucking seatbelt, and they get in a car accident, whatever. And the cop's like, "Yep, well, sorry, it sucks that happens. So get out of here, go home." It's crazy. Okay, so
1988 was when it became illegal in all
I've been
50
around
states.
since
crazy.
1988.
where's that from?
That's the Green Day lead singer when he's having a freak out on stage. I've been around since 1988.
Okay, so then after this scene, we get the scuba diving scene where his parents. Yeah.
Can we just talk about this?
He's like, no, son, no. It's like, his parents are demanding, it's like, now you're an adult. But at the same time, they're still treating him like a little kid. Like, a little kid doing a little show off, like dance party thing. But they're also like, get a job. And, they're literally forcing him into
Under
the water.
I love that shot when he's coming up and they're just pushing him back down.
Did this movie, or did 2001 steal from this movie?
Which part?
Which part?
The heavy breathing going out.
Maybe I don't know.
mean, I don't think that's like.
It was more of a joke, but
Jesus Christ.
that was a very interesting shot, though.
It was the following year. Yeah.
yeah.
I do want to say this scene, for some reason, it made me kind of relate Dustin Hoffman to Cam from Ferris Bueller's Day Off. Like, I got a very similar vibe
I could
from
see
them.
that. Absolutely, yeah.
The kind of dejected vibe with, rich hoity-toity parents who have a lot of expectations, but they don't really have expectations for themselves. I don't know. It was at this point in the movie where I was like getting that kind of feeling off of him. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, a similar thing happens in Ferris Bueller's Day Off,
Yeah.
right? He jumps in the pool and stays down.
Yeah.
There's definitely the Gen X like movement, or they took a lot from, I think, these kind of films. Like The Graduate was it was I think how The Exorcist or Rosemary's Baby was to like horror films. This is like for the coming of age like teen dramas and stuff. I think John Hughes and a lot of those guys like took a lot of inspiration from The Graduate. It's like I said, it's like the quintessential like coming of age, like midlife crisis. Nowadays it's like, I don't know. I kept thinking of Under the Silver Lake. I was like,
Really?
it's just, yeah, I think it's almost like the, like, I mean, we can talk about that later. So anyway, so he goes into the pool. It's the first time we really see him in like the belly of the beast. He's sitting at the bottom. He literally looks like the figurine.
In the aquarium.
Yeah, in the aquarium. He's completely submerged. So he decides he takes action. He's going to break a rule. He calls Mrs. Robinson. And he's like, let's, do this thing.
And we get an amazing sequence at the hotel where he's
Yeah.
like,
it's
This
so
is the
good.
best scene in the movie. I love this.
So funny. So yeah, he goes to the hotel. He's incredibly awkward. I love when he first like moves past the clerk. He's just kind of standing there. And which, by the way, that clerk, that was Buck Henry. He's one of the writers of this movie.
Oh, nice.
Oh.
Crazy. So then he goes over to the party. Goes in. One of my favorite lines when he's like, "I'm not part of this," or whatever. And then they're like, "What?" Like, I'm confused. And he's like, "I'm sorry," and just leaves. It's like, fuck. Why does that feel so relatable?
Yeah.
Like, I just
He like fails at crashing a wedding. It's great. Yeah.
you couldn't just like make up a lie or figure out a way to like just get in there. Like he's just immediately like,
No, I can't.
I just can't do it.
And then later the lady says hi to him again.
yeah.
Yeah. Eventually, Miss Robinson meets him there. They have like their whole awkward exchange of like him trying to order her a drink or go up to the room and tell her which room it is.
He calls her from
Yeah.
the payphone. He's just like, they might be a little suspicious.
I said a single room, and I'm not sure what their policy is.
He just like, it felt so taboo to him. It
Yeah.
really seemed like.
I mean, for good fucking reason.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean it is, but at the same time, it's like he really was like definitely going through like mental stress trying to do
yeah.
this. But
Yeah.
he wanted to to do something that was not, allowed, I guess. Yeah.
And once they go up to the room, I love that he like keeps all the lights kind of off, like
Yeah.
it's dark. We get a lot of those hard lightings from like the Venetian blinds and stuff, really creating that like there's a lot of vertical and like horizontal lines throughout this, really creating like a sense of like encapsulament. There's a better word there. But like it's really capturing in, they're stuck in there kind of. And then as soon as she comes in, I love when she turns on the light, and then almost immediately afterwards, he turns it back on. He's just like darkness. Let's.
And he's like closing all the blinds and everything too.
Yeah. He's trying to hide what he's doing.
You could tell he's ashamed of this.
You think I'm proud of this? And then like even the incredibly awkward moment when he tries to kiss her, but it's the least passionate, just lips on lips. It's just like. She's like, wow, okay.
And then I love that right after I'm going to take my clothes off. Well, what should I do? What do you want me to do? And she's like, maybe you could just watch. He's like, okay.
Like,
he just folds his arms and like starts
like very intently watch, like creepily intently watching.
I love when she's sitting on the bed and he just like touches her boob.
Yeah.
And then he's so ashamed he goes to the wall and just starts
banging
banging
his
his head on the wall. Like,
Oh man, he just plays like the weirdest fucking person ever at this point. Like,
and the fact that she's like, I don't know if she gets that he's under such distress, but she just still fucking goes along with it.
I think she does.
It's like,
I think she
I don't
does.
know.
I've always gotten the vibe that she's aware that he's kind of unsure of what's going on.
Yeah, I think it's kind of exciting too.
but why does she want to do it?
I think, well, that's the whole thing.
Like,
I think
that's-
she's bored as well.
She
But
is.
but why him?
I think
He's a
because
handsome young lad.
handsome young dude, but also it's an easy fix. I think it's literally he's like right there,
So do you think that she kind of thinks that he's easily malleable and manipulable and like
Yeah, probably.
it like he's just an easy mark? And
She knows
Yeah.
from the second she meets him, like she knows she could make him do whatever the fuck she wants. That is specifically because she has that like level of authority over him. They've known each other since he was a kid, right?
yeah.
his whole life.
So she groomed him.
Hey,
I don't think she necessarily
I don't think she groomed him.
but yeah, once she decided, she was like, "That's it." She was locked in to make her his accomplice.
Yeah.
Okay, so then they finally do it, and then eventually, she kind of like taps into his insecurities because she basically calls him a virgin, like inadequate and stuff, and he's
well,
like,
that's
"What?"
a laugh. That's a laugh.
What is he, British?
He's like, "Well, I'll show you," and turns off the lights,
Slams the door.
and then boom, goes for it. And then we cut to the scene of him floating on the water.
Ah, the great montage.
Yeah, and a fantastic montage afterwards. But I feel like it's so nice that they show him finally above the water,
Drifting through life.
and he looks like it gets hard to tell. He doesn't look content still. He still looks like very like out of it. But now it's just basically his position hasn't changed, but it has like he's still kind
Well,
of
now he's just drifting, right?
Yeah.
He's drifting through this relationship and through life.
I just said that.
Okay, whatever.
Stealing my points.
Oh, I was also gonna say like up to this point in the film, as far as I noticed, like the use of color, a lot of the interiors of the houses and everything is all black and white. It feels very void. It's not very warm. A lot of the houses, like there's filled with like furniture, but nothing in it really shouts like it makes you feel like a home necessarily. It just kind of it's I think it's supposed to be a product of like the time at that point, like in the 60s, like post like nuclear family stuff where everybody has like a lot of material shit that really fills in the blanks, but none of it is necessarily like actually making
like,
you feel better, I guess.
And that's coming back and making a resurgence nowadays too. Like, have you seen like all these people doing house renovations and stuff where they just cover the entire inside of the house with white marble, and then they put like big pots from like Home Goods and stuff where it's like nothing has any like aesthetic value to it or any emotional or intrinsic value, and it's just like it's there kind of as like this showpiece. Like this is a house you could step into and it could be anybody's home.
Yeah, I mean, there's like a millennial minimalism that's really kind of taken over.
It's awful.
I'm not a fan personally, but yes, that is definitely a thing of like it's a lot of devoid of color and patterns and stuff. But
You
yeah,
look at McDonald's. We were talking about
Yeah,
this
we were
last
just
night.
talking about
Like,
this.
Really?
McDonald's like has lost any form of like
Looks like you're
aesthetic.
at a corporate boardroom.
Yeah, it
when
feels
you're-
like a fucking doctor's office. Like when we were kids, we would go to McDonald's and it'd be like bright and vibrant, and there'd be play places. Now it's just like dead
you're at
inside.
a boardroom.
Dude, no,
terrible.
it's a foodstuffs factory.
So we even like I went to like a Taco Bell recently that was like that same corporate art bullshit. Like they stripped away everything about it that I don't know would be interesting. It's just purple and white and just so lame.
Yeah,
But-
hey,
I
everything's
realize-
losing its like charm.
Yeah.
Not to say like I'm in love with fucking fast food chains,
didn't
but
realize-
like nothing's like cool anymore. Everything's
No, I think
so-
everything just is trying to be cool, like sleek and modern.
yeah,
and
yeah.
It's like
I didn't realize Taco Bell was such an important part of the culture.
it's
Hey, it is.
But I will say
Crunchwrap
stuff like
Supremes?
Raising Cane's, they still maintain like a little bit of aesthetic now.
They do.
Like
They have disco balls.
it seems like it's a lot of the old guard of these fast food restaurants.
I think it's
where
kind of
they're
coming
j-
back. Like,
where- yeah.
in certain senses, like certain, it's like there's like a aesthetic that's trying to like maximalism. That's like kind of the opposite of it. That seems to be like growing in popularity. But I was gonna say for the colors though, like there's obviously the blue a lot from the water in the pool, and there's the green from like the vegetation. But I think in the hotel is the first time we start seeing a lot of red. Red starts popping up a lot more. And then eventually we see him driving around his car, which is that bright cherry red, which is a great car too.
Oh,
It's so
beautiful
cool.
car! Yeah. Do you know what model car that was? I don't think they ever say. I
It
couldn't
looks like
tell.
a Jaguar, but I might be wrong.
Yeah.
I'm not a car person. But Blake, you're a car person.
No, I'm not.
Just kidding. Okay.
Like it looked like it could be like an old Porsche from the '60s, but I don't know what it would be. I don't know.
It's it says here, it is a 1966 Alfa Romero Duetto Spider.
Oh, geez, he was driving an Alfa Romeo. Like
Damn.
that's a real like deep cut import right there back then. Like those were not very big back then. Nowadays, like I know several people who have one, but back then it was like pretty much
You know
unknown.
people who have that car?
Well, no, I'm talking about like modern Alfa
Oh,
Romeos.
okay. Yeah.
yeah,
Still, those
yeah.
very nice fancy cars.
They're shit cars. They break down and you can't
That
get
true?
parts from. Oh yeah, one of the guys I know, his car has been in the shop for actually, he just got it back out, but it was in the shop for 3 months because they couldn't replace a water pump. Yeah,
Take that, Alfa Romero.
yeah.
Okay, so at the end of that montage sequence, we get where they're sitting in the dark again, and there's a lot of playing with light and like blocking being like the movement of actors in a scene and stuff, usually very intentional. And I think this scene, again, like a lot of this film, very intentional.
There's a lot of this movie does a lot with distance and blocking and
Yeah.
depth. That's,
So we see them like Ben starts asking her personal questions. He wants to actually have a conversation. He's seeking more than just a physical connection, but now an emotional.
and this time he's the one turning the lights on.
Yeah. And she's like, no, turns it off. Like, she completely wants to shut that out.
Yeah, and I think that's kind of important because you see that even though she was kind of babying him a little bit at first to guide him into this situation, she doesn't really care about him. She doesn't want him to care about her. And, especially the conversation that they have after this where she's like, no, you're not good enough for my daughter. It's understandable because she doesn't respect him. She thinks of him as a little, Play-Doh weasel that she can manipulate. And she kind of sees her daughter as being like the one thing in her life that's actually worth a damn. And she doesn't want him to ruin that.
I agree with that. But I think you could also read the scene a little differently. Like,
How would you read it?
she doesn't want to lose him specifically to her daughter. I think like she wants him for herself and she doesn't want to like give him away to anyone, especially his daughter, probably because she's like fucked him. But
Yeah.
That definitely complicates things.
Yeah. I see. I took it as like I think she saw a lot of herself in her daughter and him, like her young self who, she hooked up with Mr. Robinson, and they end up getting married
a
because she got
Ford.
pregnant. Yeah, in the Ford. And I think that she wanted to prevent her daughter from going down that same path with this guy who she sees is basically on that same path. So she's kind of like, oh, you know what? Like, yeah, stay away from her because I don't want that to happen. But I think there's also there's a lot of like things that are going in and out.
But then like they're so supportive.
Probably a mixture of all three of those.
The other relationship with the other guy who's successful that she's all about, which was what complicates that idea.
I think the difference with that guy though, with what the fuck's his name?
Med student guy.
Yeah, the med student dude is because he is a med student. He's actually gonna be a doctor, and it's like okay, then automatically that's like a career path. He'll have some kind of life that's set on track because so far, Ben, because do we ever know what his degree was in or what?
I don't
he was
think
a track
so.
star.
Yeah.
I mean, it's got to have something to do with journalism because he was like the editor of the paper, I would think. But he might be like pre-law. Like when they say graduate school, they might be talking about law school because it sounds like Mr. Robinson and his dad are both lawyers. So, is he going into the family business?
I think they leave it kind of
know?
purposely vague because it really doesn't matter.
That's true.
It doesn't
yeah.
matter what he's doing. It's just that he's like fairly successful in college.
Today he would have an engineering degree.
Yeah.
Or psychology degree. No shame to those people. It's just a lot of people have those and don't necessarily always know what they want to do. It's rough. It's rough.
Maybe he had a degree in underwater basket weaving.
Maybe.
Yeah. I mean, he did have the scuba suit.
He did.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, they got it for him, I think, and then they're like, "Well, let's see." What a weird thing.
Yeah, that's a terrible birthday gift.
Yeah, what a weird gift. What he's gonna go? He's gonna be diving in his pool. Like I don't know.
Well, so let's think about this realistically. So plastics, right?
Yes.
We're going back to,
Let's get into plastics.
okay, so when were modern scuba suits invented? This might be like a fairly new invention at this point, without the old dive helmets and stuff like that, where it's like, okay, you've got, these plastic components now. You can make these regulators and things like that. You've got the suit that's made out of like,
It doesn't seem like
dry
they
suit.
spared any expense. I mean, they bought
He said
him
it
a
was-
fucking Alfa Romero.
Yeah. They said the scuba suit was $200.
Oh, really? Okay.
But I mean,
$200
$200
but
is a lot.
in the
67.
60s, that could buy you a house.
Yeah.
I mean, not really, but
Yeah.
yeah.
Okay, so after they argue about her daughter, because once he starts bringing up her daughter, she's like, "Don't fucking talk about her" and everything. That's when his parents really pressure him to take her Elaine, right?
Elaine, yeah.
Yeah.
To take her out on a date, and he reluctantly agrees, and he decides to bomb it.
And they have the best first date ever.
Dude.
That scene's so fucking funny.
It is very funny.
Takes her to a burlesque show.
Yeah, he's just power walking with his like sunglasses on.
That's an actual representation of me walking with someone else.
And the one thing I will say is this is the first time in the movie where he actually looks cool. Like
I don't know about that.
No, but like the way that he's walking and acting with like the sunglasses and stuff, he looks like he's like a player. Or,
He looks like a
Chad.
fucking jerk.
Yeah,
What
I
he
was gonna
looks
say
like.
he reminds me of Peter Parker in Spider-Man 3. Like he really just needed that
About
like
that emo haircut.
yeah, exactly. Yeah.
He needed to accidentally punch her after a dance choreography movement.
Exactly.
This sequence is so fucking funny. It's like the second funniest scene in the whole movie. When the burlesque dancer is how do I
spinning
put this?
her tassels.
Yeah.
Spinning her tassels.
Pasties.
And he's like, "Wow, look at that! Now look at the show. Isn't it wonderful?" It's like, oh my god!
And it's right over Elaine's head, just spinning. And it's really funny, but also
really uncomfortable and sad.
It's very sad. I felt
Yeah.
so awful for her in that moment.
I would have felt horrible for Elaine. Like,
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, you immediately do, especially as you see how upsetting it is for her. And then he immediately feels bad for her. He's like, ah, shit. Like,
So
I
is he still wearing his sunglasses at this point?
think
I
so.
think
Okay.
he takes them off during that sequence. I
Okay,
believe.
well, I was gonna because I'm not sure, but like think about this. Like, is she able to like look into his sunglasses and kind of see what's going on behind her? And is she getting upset? Like,
I mean, I think she
based
got
on
the
like
gist.
knowing what's going on. Yeah.
And then also like he chases after her. He then calls her or starts telling her the truth. He's like, look, I didn't want to do this. He wanted to like bomb the whole date, and then they start to connect for realsies. And it's the first real connection that he's had. You can tell how it's like exciting.
It's so weird because like she's like totally like pissed off at him, and then he just kisses her like and is holding her there, and you can tell that she's like not into it, and then it kind of just cuts to them like, okay, things are better now.
Yeah, she's like reluctant at the least, and then they cut. I'm assuming he got her food, or they got each other.
Yeah,
food.
they go to that burger place.
Yeah, and then they start like talking more, and so I don't know. I think it's because he's apologizing and everything. There's something like I don't know. Maybe that just like he's trying to like relate to her, and then they do relate to each other a lot. They're in very similar positions. They're both young people who don't really know what to do, and they have like certain expectations on their heads. And her expectation is to get married. It's get married, find someone to marry, and do it. And that's pretty much it. And he's trying to, and then and he's excited, and I think really touched by her because like she reaches like he actually is for the first time really in the film we see him actually connecting with somebody on a mental level.
Yeah, because she's his age, and they're at the same like point in life. Everyone else he's spoken to in this movie really has been an old person. Yeah,
That's true.
And he feels like I don't know, for the first time he's not being controlled or compelled to do something. He's just being him.
And actually there's the opposite too, because Mrs. Robinson specifically tells him not to go out with his daughter, and then suddenly she's a bit of that forbidden fruit.
Yeah,
I think in a way
he breaks another rule.
There is a lot of themes of like defying your elders in this movie too.
Oh yeah,
like being rebellious, and how a lot of the times being rebellious just makes you follow orders in a different way. Really interesting theme.
Yeah.
And then is it after this when they go to the hotel?
Yeah, so this is when the hotel comes up, and this whole time that he's been going to the hotel, he's been going under an assumed name because he's like so embarrassed by it.
What's his name? Okay.
it's like Goldschmidt or something.
Gladstone.
Mr. Gladstone, and everybody's
Mr.
like,
Gladstone.
"Oh, hi, Mr. Gladstone," and then you have probably like 15 different people say, "Hi, Mr. Gladstone," and then you have the lady from the wedding who he used a different fake name with her, and she's like, "Oh, hi, Mr."
No, he uses his real
actual name.
Oh,
yeah.
did
He
you?
used his real name. Yeah.
Okay.
She's like, "Oh, Mr. Braddock," and he's like, "God, fuck it." It happens so many times. It's like just getting punched in the face over and over again.
Yeah.
Like
So
it's-
funny.
Even like he's walking out and people are still like, "Hey, hey!"
Like, the entire staff
Let's
just knows
get
him.
out of here.
She asks him what the fuck's going on, and he tells her that he's been having an affair with an older married woman who has children.
Has a son.
As a son, yeah.
Yes.
So he's
a liar.
He lies to her.
Yes.
Yeah.
And then afterwards we get to see Mrs. Robinson confronting what's his name? Ben about him going on a date with her. It's also raining, which I think is of note, right? As like he decides, you know what? He's going to tell her the truth. He's going to come out with the truth about it, which I don't even know if that's the best decision in that point. It's like like he could have definitely handled it differently, but he storms back home to her house and just tells her the truth, and then we get that awesome shot too.
He does that because she threatens to tell her.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah.
Yeah, he wants to break the news first so that he doesn't seem like as much of an asshole.
Yeah.
But he barges into her room while she's half naked to tell her this.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's one of my favorite shots is after when it's on Mrs. Robinson and the camera just pans back. Oh, so
Yeah,
fucking
and
good.
it's great because the spatial like depth between them, it just feels like it's extending in real time.
As
As
Like,
it
it's
begins
great,
to,
yeah.
Well, it's because as Miss Robinson is there, it's focused on her, and then it slowly racks back to Elaine as she's realizing it. Right when she says it, she's like, "Oh God," or whatever. Right when it hits her.
That's such a great shot. Wait, like she comes into focus as she realizes, "Oh, okay."
Terrible.
Mm-hmm.
And then we get the scene right outside the door where there's like that zoom.
Yeah, so that's the scene I was talking about. Sorry.
Yeah.
Where that one's amazing to me because
She's at the end of the hall.
yeah, it feels like she's a lot closer at that point when they start the shot, and then you realize just how far away she is. And I think that really exemplifies like kind of the distance that's now formed between them that you didn't realize that was there at first, and how the gap is so much bigger than you thought it was.
Yeah. it feels like a shot from a horror movie.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it does.
It's just I don't know.
It actually kind of reminds me of a shot from Breaking Bad with when Skyler's like holding the knife and like standing in front of Walt Jr. It's like a similar shot, like the very like the maternal protection.
What's the
shot,
matter with you?
know what I mean?
We're a family.
We're a family. Spoilers for Breaking Bad, but you've had over 10 years, I think. I don't know. That is like that's probably my favorite shot of the movie. Actually, it's hard to say. This movie is fucking gorgeous.
It is.
Yeah.
And then we had the scene with him in the kitchen telling his parents that he's getting married.
This
His
seems like a
mom-
half-baked.
His mom lets out a guttural scream. Like it is a lot to take
Well,
in.
but between that and this, he does a little bit of pre-stalking on Elaine to see her leave
Oh,
and
yeah.
go back to school.
He does stalk her quite a bit in this movie.
Yeah.
He does. Because yes, he's like, oh, she doesn't know. And then he starts driving up to Berkeley where he is, full blown stalking her.
Yeah, I do love the line where his father's like, "Well, son, this idea seems a little half baked."
It's
and he's
fully
like,
baked.
"Yeah, this is fully baked." Like, if you think of that like he's just like kind of gone crazy at this point.
He's definitely he's broken.
Well,
Yeah.
this is also the first time he's taken agency of his
Yeah.
own life.
Oh,
He's
yeah.
like,
From the
I'm going to
very-
do something, and he doesn't know how to do anything for himself. So it's
Yeah.
kind of like he's just being a fucking weirdo.
Yeah, he's very passive up until this point.
Yeah, and then like throughout the rest of the film, you see everything that he has kind of just deteriorating, from his clothes to his car to his quality of living.
To his like hygiene.
Yeah, where you see it just slowly kind of move downwards for the rest of the movie.
Yeah.
Once he's in Berkeley and he finds her, which I love that shot of him like sitting in the fountain from like really far away.
Oh yeah.
That reminds me of the what is it? This movie called The Conversation with Gene Hackman. We should definitely watch that movie one day. But it's like that long kind of like telephoto lens, or like they're really zooming on him. It's great. And
Yeah.
then we see him running alongside the bus and catching up with her. But did you want to say something? Sorry.
The one shot where from that big, wide angle, right, where they're looking from very far away, and then she walks out the door and you can barely see her as a little speck, which I think it actually pays off to watch this on a bigger TV, or if like they have a 4K release because of that. So she's so small in frame, and they're just able to perfectly zoom through the statue in the middle of the fountain right onto her, and just a beautiful shot, and so complicated to pull that off.
Oh yeah.
Right, because like I was talking about this a little bit before we started, but being able to pull off that shot is complicated nowadays.
Yeah.
Back then, I don't know how they would have like been able to do that. You got to be so steady with it.
It's a lot of coordination.
Yeah.
And then he follows her to the zoo, where where he meets her kind of fiance.
What's his name? Carl?
No. He engaged here. Yeah, Carl Smith.
Who has a pipe? He's a pipe smoker.
Very sophisticated. Okay.
I love how he talks to
Like
Carl.
Sherlock
He's like, we
Holmes.
didn't think you were going to show.
No, you said by the monkey cage. Like criticizing him.
Yeah.
So then they head off together. But then she comes back to his dorm room where she demands to know why he's there.
It's not a dorm room. It's like kind of a
like a hostel? No, not
a tenement house, maybe.
Yeah.
I don't know.
It's definitely for students, it seems like.
Well, some of it's for students, but also for just young men who are out on their own and haven't made it yet, right? Or like are working on the start of their career. It's a very sad place, right? It doesn't seem like the people who live there are necessarily living in like the luxury that he's used to living in.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And the
Yeah.
dude who owns it is just
Hates
like a grumpy dude. I don't like agitators.
it's like, you're not going to cause any problems. And he's like, no. It's like, and then she goes up to the room, and then she tells her what her mom's, Mrs. Robinson's version of events, which is that she was assaulted by Ben, and he starts telling her the truth, which is still horrifying. And she screams, and then they're all like, what? Like, which, I don't know. At least that was nice to know that all those dudes were like, okay, something's wrong going on. Let's figure it out.
Should I call the cops?
Yeah.
I'm gonna call the cops.
Chivalry hadn't died yet then.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He's like, I want you out. Just get the hell out of here. I don't
And
like
she
you.
just snaps back from like screaming and like it sounded like she was legitimately getting like murdered in there.
Yeah.
And she just like jumps back to being like, hi, I'm just drinking a glass of water here. Like, yeah.
Then she says that she doesn't want him to leave, and eventually she returns in the middle of the night, and he asks her to marry her. But I like how he's just like, you want to marry me? He's like yawning. It's like, Jesus, dude. She says no because she's already engaged to Mr. Smith. Yeah, the doctor.
I thought she didn't. Did she reveal that at this point? Because I thought that she didn't reveal that until the volleyball game.
Well, she
Right?
said,
Because
yeah,
at the night, or was that volleyball or basketball that they were playing? I think basketball.
I think it was volleyball. I don't fucking know.
I don't.
But either
remember.
way, she's like, I don't think I can, or she says no.
She says maybe.
Yeah.
She says sure maybe. Like kind of just brushing him off, and then you see him more actively pursuing her over the next couple days. Yeah, to months. Who knows how long
He's
it was?
definitely like he's following her all over campus.
Yeah.
He like waits directly in front of the door
Which
for her
by the way,
entire class.
that's a great like kind of composition there where you hear the bell ring and then he's still outside, then you hear it ring again, and it very much easily alludes to like just that gap of time passing, and he's just been standing there in
What's
the
he
same
say?
place.
He's like,
the whole
why
time.
not? Like,
Yeah.
yeah, he immediately continues the conversation.
Yeah.
So he gets confronted by Mr. Robinson, who has one of my favorite scenes where he's like, why do you hate me? Like, like what the fuck? It's like, you fuck my wife,
Also,
and then now
the way he's framed like a villain with his like cigar and everything.
yeah, where it almost makes you think that he's gonna do something. Like, it's like menacing. It's like, it's understandable why he would be so pissed, or but he's, if anything, he's like scared of Ben by the end of it. He's like, yeah, get away from me, and then yeah.
You're a degenerate. I like that his like landlord sees that and he's just like,
And then he tells him again, I want you out of here.
you're a degenerate.
This time he threatens to call the cops though, which won't be the last time that Ben gets the cops
No.
called on him.
No.
Yeah.
So then after he gets kicked out, you see him, he goes back down to Southern California, someplace in LA. It's not exactly specific where they are, to find, and he sees Mrs. Robinson there because he wants to find Elaine, and she calls the cops.
Didn't he go there to get her birth certificate?
Is that it?
No.
I wasn't sure.
No, okay, so we watched the deleted scene or the screen test, right? And in the screen test, they had
mentions
set
that.
it up about like,
Him going back
I can
down.
go back to your house and go steal your gift. or
Okay,
your
maybe
birth
that's where I'm
certificate.
confused.
Or yeah, and so I see where you're coming from on that, but they retooled that into the scene where he was following her around campus, right?
Okay. Yeah.
So that conversation all got cut out. And when he goes back down to go basically try to, because now he knows that, the Robinsons are getting divorced, and Elaine basically has said, doesn't want to talk to him anymore because he goes to her dorm room, right? Before this, he goes to her dorm room and she's left a letter that says, sorry, too bad, we're not going to get married. And, he's trying to track her down. Yeah, and that's when he ends up at their house. And I think they live in Santa Barbara.
Oh, yeah. And then Mrs. Robinson says that she's calling the cops.
Yeah.
Well, she
No, I
does
think
call
the
the
wedding
cops.
was at Santa Barbara.
Okay.
And then we get a sequence where he eventually goes to the frat house to find out where the wedding is.
Yeah. He drives from Berkeley down to Southern California, back up to Berkeley. Like, he's driving up and down the fucking, up and down California.
Yeah. That's no short drive.
No.
And then he finds the location of the church by he like goes to the gas station where he just like really gunning it. Which, by the way, he drives like a maniac throughout this movie.
Yes.
And then eventually we get the big wedding scene where he just bursts. Elaine. He's like tapping on the window. Elaine.
Yeah.
His arms spread out like a crazy dude.
Which that wedding scene is also copied in Wayne's World too.
Yeah.
Hey, is it?
In the same church, yeah.
Huh.
Yeah.
And they it's parodied in The Simpsons as well.
Oh.
The Simpsons parodied everything.
They did. So he's like, he's eventually they break out of the wedding. There's like a whole sequence. You see her.
He's like trying to hit people with a fucking crucifix. Like
the big excitement of everything. They jump on the bus, and we get probably the second most iconic scene in the movie, where they're riding away. The adrenaline dies down, and it ends.
Yeah. Well, you really see him kind of just not really like. He's kind of back into his mode of just kind of waiting.
Well, what now?
And like, he's less in the what now mood. He seems like he's more like in the, drifting through life. He's back to drifting through life like he was doing before he started talking to Elaine and stuff, right?
Well, we get the same song that we opened with, which is The Sound of Silence.
Yeah. But she seems like, as it dies down, she's realizing that she's made a huge mistake.
Yeah.
Right? Where you see her
So
face
does he.
kind of drop and she's starting to get more depressed. I don't think he does. He doesn't seem like he does.
He definitely
I think
does.
he does.
Okay.
Because
I don't know if either of them. Maybe they do. It just feels like, again, they're just like, well, what the fuck? Like, what do we?
Yeah. What now?
they both. Yeah. It's now what? That's kind
I
of like
think-
the vibe, right?
Yeah.
I think I like when she eventually turns to look at him as if to like get some kind of reassurance or something, and then he's just like blankly staring forward still, and then she kind of just turns back and
Does
like,
the
kind
same.
of and then she starts like looking inward
And then
basically as well.
They're also
It's like-
contrasted by like the old people.
Yes.
which is very
All those
purposeful.
old people just staring at them
Like, what the
on a
fuck?
school bus. Which is
It's a
also-
bizarre.
Well,
I think
don't
it's a
it was
public
sc-
bus.
Yeah, it seemed like
Oh,
a
okay.
public bus.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But still, it's the perfect ending for this movie. And apparently he just kept rolling. It was initially supposed to end with them like just like laughing or whatever as they go on the bus, but he decided to keep rolling, and then both actors just kind of reset and just kept going with the scene, and we got that, which was a brilliant ending.
And I think like the point, right, is like their act of defiance has kind of put them to make the same mistakes that their parents did.
Absolutely.
But
yeah.
also, it was utterly pointless at the end because where do they go from there?
Yeah,
it's like,
exactly.
Okay, yeah.
Yeah.
They're just destined to live these miserable lives.
Yeah,
They
it's-
were, like,
it's
literally-
completely futile.
minutes prior, like
Yeah.
basically fighting off that life.
Yeah.
Like with everything that they have.
Only to
And
end up
then-
in that same life.
Yeah.
It's a great ironic
And
ending.
also, it's like the street that you see them driving down. It's great because that's the first time that you really see like a less developed road that they're going down, right? Versus like the houses that they were living in before. Very opulent, very fancy, and you see them kind of breaking away from that opulence a little bit to kind of go down like an undeveloped road, right? Or a minimally developed road. Yeah, I don't know. Maybe I'm reading too much into that, but
Interesting.
yeah.
So why do you guys think Ben really stuck to Elaine or was like so fixated on Elaine?
like you said, forbidden fruit, right? And the first young person that he actually talked to, the first
Yeah.
person that wasn't talking down to him, it makes sense that he would fall for her.
I think it's because it's what he felt that he was supposed to do. Because
Yeah, that
it was
too.
the one thing where he was specifically told by his parents, hey, you should ask her out, right? It was like the one direction that they were specifically giving him now that he's graduated from school.
There's a bit of
Instead of
both
asking
elements.
him what he was going to do, they directly told him, hey, you should pursue this girl, right?
Yeah.
And so he felt like, okay, I don't really know what I'm doing with the rest of my life, but I know that this is technically something I should be doing. So he pushes that really hard because it's the only thing he has at that point.
Yeah. Even in his final act of defiance, he's still following orders in a way,
Exactly, yeah.
Yeah. How sympathetic do you guys view Mrs. Robinson?
It's tough.
She's very human, to be
I-
honest. She's in a loveless marriage.
Yeah, it's like I do not agree with her actions, but her character, it is a sad character.
Yeah.
Like when they're talking about college and like when
She used to
she
be an
says
art
her
major.
was art, she seems genuinely sad that she was never able to pursue that again. She also just feels kind of like a lost character.
Yeah. Also drifting through life.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Aren't we all?
I had trouble throughout the film understanding her character motivations a little bit. And I also got that with Elaine as well. It seemed like they fell too easily into these relationships. Like all the characters in this film, it was kind of like, okay, this is going to happen, and then it does. And it felt like with her situation, it didn't really make sense to me. Why does she want this young guy that has no experience with these things, and and is basically being an embarrassment to her? He's very embarrassing throughout the whole hotel scene.
Yeah.
Like I wouldn't want to be seen with a guy like that if I were
maybe that's kind of what she likes, though,
refined
right?
older
Like
lady.
a young, naive guy.
Again, like I think it's her trying to like take some sort of control over something in her life, which unfortunately ends up being Ben, and it's a pretty parasitic relationship, but that's what she wanted. She wanted to control something, and it just happened to be him.
I think it says a lot to do with like how her circumstances fell apart. She was studying something, she had a passion, and she had to let those all go because she got pregnant young and then had to like immediately get married. So then she's just kind of been doing exactly what she's been told, right?
Yeah.
So it's like now I think she sees like a spark in Ben that reminds her of her young self, and probably of even Mr. Robinson when they were young. They were both like young and naive, and they got pregnant very early on. So there's something there that's like exciting, and probably harkens to her early ages, because that's that turning point, right? When she graduated and everything is when her life stopped being her own, really.
Yeah, I think it's also really interesting that you get less development from Ben's family than you do for like even Mr. Robinson, right? You kind of seem to know him better. And then you actually know Ben's
His parents
father.
are like placeholders. Like they're just like run of the mill white upper middle class people.
I mean, that's kind of like all. I feel like there's a lot of symbolism with all the adults except for Mrs. Robinson just being like this boring purgatory existence.
Yeah.
Which is like what I said. I think the ultimate point of the movie is the attempt to not become that, but just becoming that anyways.
It's like we all become our parents.
Yeah,
which
in a
is
way.
just terrifying sometimes to think about. But like, I mean, it depends. But like some aspects of it, we're just like we want to be. We're so, I think, set on being individuals and having our own ideas, and kind of just feeling that we're kind of all just copies.
Yeah.
We're all a bit of just like, like people say all the time online, like I've never had an original experience in my life, because it's like we kind of don't. We're all kind of built the same way basically, and there's variation of course, but it's we tend to fall into very similar tendencies, and it's for a reason.
Yeah. So any other thoughts on this film?
If I had one criticism,
Oh no!
and
Are you going to
it's
have the
not-
hot take this week?
it's I don't think it's
Why
that
do you
hot
hate
of a
this
take.
movie?
It's a minor criticism because I think this is a near perfect movie, but I wish Elaine was introduced just a little sooner in the movie, because she shows up like halfway through, and we really don't get a whole lot of time watching their relationship develop.
I think that's important though, because they don't have a relationship.
Yeah,
I
I think
agree.
that's
Right.
purposeful.
I think that's really showing that he doesn't actually care about Elaine.
I think he does.
I don't think he does. He doesn't
I
actually
think he
care about
doesn't
her.
have
He
the-
cares about the idea of her.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I like
Right?
that. He
Yeah.
cares about the idea.
You know?
I think he hasn't had the opportunity to really know her or care about her, right? 'Cause,
Yeah.
I mean, they do say that, like, Mrs. Robinson, the Robinsons have known them for most of their life, so he probably has some, like, general knowledge of her. But
Yeah,
he
they
has,
went
like,
to school together and stuff.
Yes, but he probably doesn't know her on a personal level. It seems like they've never really spoken until that first date, and that's really the only time where they actually connect. And with a normal relationship or something, they would have had time to develop like feelings and emotions and understandings of each other, but they never get that.
I think this goes along with what Miles said earlier too, about the whole he wants Elaine because that's what he quote unquote should be going for. So I think that kind of reinforces that, right? Like he wants to marry her because she's the woman he quote unquote should marry. It's like the person his parents want. It's the person that Elaine's dad.
And for her too.
Yeah,
It's same.
and
Yeah.
Elaine's dad weirdly wants him to fuck her before. What's he say to her before the date? He's like, "You better be careful. You may have picked up some tricks." It's like, that's a
Jesus
weird.
Christ.
That's a
Hey, you
weird,
picked him up from your wife, bud.
that's a weird thing to say to your daughter. Yeah. So I don't know. I think that goes along with what Miles was saying earlier.
No, I agree. I think her perspective is tough too because she's trying not to be her mom essentially, but she ends up becoming her mom kind of, or at least she's headed down that path. That's for sure. It's tough to say. It's like we don't even know what her major is or anything because it kind of doesn't matter, and that's fucked up because it's like for both of them, but like it's just like it doesn't matter. Like whatever, that's not the point. That's not what you're supposed
They're
to be
both
doing,
up and
right?
becoming adults.
Yeah,
Yes.
and that's essentially it. Yeah.
I really would be interested in reading the book that this is based on now. Because I would love to see what the author's original intentions were and what the stuff that was added, for the movie was.
Yeah, I wonder if it's more hopeful in the book or if it's just as kind
I
of
love the
depressing.
nihilistic dread of this movie.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Yeah.
They become old people at the end.
Yeah.
It was a very interesting experience.
Yeah, I love
We've
this
all
movie.
seen this, right?
Yeah.
I
I'd
think we've
seen
all
it-
seen it once prior.
Oh,
Yeah.
I've seen it twice.
Twice.
This is
I
my
saw it
third
once
time.
with Blake like 2 years ago, so fairly recently.
I think it was longer than 2 years ago.
Really?
For me, it
I think
was
that
like
was
when I was like
fucking pre-COVID.
9 or 10.
Oh shit.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I watched it with my dad when I was like 9 or 10. So like,
Wow.
you know,
I would
it's
not
been a long
appreciate
time.
this movie as a 90.
No, I mean, like when I rewatched it this time, like I remembered it being a good movie, a lot of interesting stuff, but I didn't understand the context of a lot of it,
Oh, yeah.
and I didn't understand like the relationship, the what do you call it? The relationship issues that they had, and
Yeah,
also
you were 9.
Yeah.
and also, I couldn't tell that Dustin Hoffman was like awkward. He seemed like a suave dude to a 9-year-old mind. You know, I was like, damn, this is
He's really
badass.
good with the ladies.
Yeah,
We didn't talk about the funniest line in the movie. It's the funniest scene of the movie, and we established that. But when he's at the hotel for the first time, and he walks up to the desk, and the bellhop guy goes, "Are you here for an affair?" And he goes, "What?"
Oh, no. Yes.
Well, and then that's what brings them into
Yeah,
the
yeah.
party.
yeah.
Also, I love like with the bellhop guy. Sorry, we're going back to this, but when he's like, the bellhop's like, or the guy at the counter's like, "Oh, do you have any luggage?" And he's like, "Yes." And then he's like, "Oh, get a porter to bring it up." And he's like, "Oh, no need to do that. No need to do
It's
that.
just a toothbrush."
Toothbrush."
Puts
Which
his
he
hand
really
over
does
the bell.
have.
Yeah,
he really
he
does
goes
have-
to his car and gets a fucking toothbrush.
Yeah, and brings it back, and he's like, "Got the toothbrush." He has to make the point of telling him he got the toothbrush.
I
right
love
here. It's
cringe
great. Yeah.
humor. That's my favorite type of
it's-
humor.
I remember for one of my film classes, we didn't watch this movie, but we did. Our professor put on one scene, and it was the scuba diving scene from that whole. And like I was like, oh, this movie. Like you just immediately understand what this movie's about. And I was like, and I remember wanting to watch it, but I didn't.
That's actually the first time I watched this movie was in a film class.
Oh, nice.
Oh. Am I the only person here who hasn't been in a film class?
Yes.
I think so. Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, geez.
You're
That explains why I've just got awful takes on movies and I don't understand film at all.
Yeah, you've never been told what to think.
Exactly. I've got that outsider perspective. You know?
Hey, this is a movie about being told what to think.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Look, it all circles together.
Whoa.
I just fucking love this movie.
It's a great movie. Honestly, it's fantastic.
So visually impressive.
Very Kino.
In Kino.
Key November.
I'm so glad that Key November's over, honestly.
It's Keen December.
Man, you
now.
don't like any of our theme months.
No, I don't like the like Kino term. It's like because
Yeah,
when
I-
I think of Kino, I think of the company Kino that makes
Lights.
pretty good releases.
Oh,
of
I think
movies.
that. Yeah. I was thinking of the Kino. There's a light company that makes Kino.
But
I was thinking of all the kids in my film classes who
They would
are
say
annoying.
Kino, really?
Yeah. Well, no,
Would they?
but
I
like
don't think that was a
they're the
term
type of
yet.
people that I would
Oh yeah.
think actually say it unironically.
So you guys ready for Dick and Frame December? I'll start with shame. Movies that have full-on dick in them.
The Sound of Silence also is in Watchmen, and there's a lot of dick in that too.
yeah,
Blue dick.
we got to watch Bronson, of course.
Yeah, Bronson. Lots of Dick and Bronson.
Yeah,
I think we did Bronson.
We already did
Yeah,
Bronson,
but we can rewatch it. I don't know.
No, but that's what I'm saying. Like, I was getting a lot of the Under the Silver Lake. That feels like the millennial version of this movie.
Really?
Yeah.
Please explain, because I don't get what you're saying.
It's like it's okay.
It's about being lost.
It is. It's Andrew Garfield is a lost young millennial man who doesn't really have much direction in life, and he's just kind of basically wandering Southern California, just trying to figure out what to do. He's trying to assign meaning to a lot of meaningless shit. Like he's just wandering. I don't know.
I can see
mean,
where you're
it's the
coming from on
amped
that.
up satirical
Okay.
version of it too, where it's like, you know, it's less, you know, dramatic, I'll say. But also there's like, I think there's some intentionality to it. Like there's a lot of water imagery as well, obviously. So I think there's, I don't know, there's not necessarily a 1-to-1, but it's still, it kept popping up in my mind the more I was thinking about it.
No,
I see them
they
as
do-
very different movies.
They
They're
are.
very different
Yeah.
movies, but I can see them exploring similar themes.
Okay.
Yes.
Right?
Yeah.
You know,
Like,
Yeah. So
Under the Silver Lake, it's like a spiritual successor to The Big Lebowski.
Yes,
Yeah.
that's a movie I'd much more compare it to.
Yeah.
The stoner noir. I think that's like the name of that subgenre.
yeah, I could see that. Yeah.
It's fucking great. I want to talk about The Big Lebowski at some point.
and I want to redo talking about Under the Silver Lake at some
I'm
point.
down, dude.
Yeah,
Because
I love
like
that movie.
that was our first episode, I think.
We hadn't gotten our
and,
rhythm
and I mean,
down.
yeah, we didn't really have a rhythm, and
We have a
also
rhythm now.
I wasn't really talking on that one. And that movie, just over the last couple of years, it has become one of my favorite films.
It's a great movie.
You know,
So good.
yeah,
Yeah. And that was the first and only time I'd seen it too. So
Andrew Garfunkel.
yeah. Maybe at some point in the future we
Yeah,
will talk
I'm
about
down.
that. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm down.
We could
Yeah.
even do a double feature with that and The Big Lebowski. I think that could be kind of a
I'd be
fun
down. Ooh,
episode.
yeah.
I suppose we should transition into talking about movies we've seen this week. Miles, would you like to start? We did see a movie together.
Yes. How do you pronounce? It's a Spanish film.
It's called The Coffee Table.
The coffee table. No, but what? No, the actual name.
Ron, how do you say that in Spanish?
what film?
The
What?
Coffee Table.
It was like La Comida de Ser or something. No, no.
It's-
Hold on.
I don't.
Ron, you're
Hold on. Let me look it up.
The Coffee Table.
I want to know what the actual name is. So I'm not.
It's
It's called The fucking Coffee Table.
It might have a different name in
yeah,
Spanish.
It's got a Spanish name.
La mesita del comedor.
Yeah,
Okay.
The actual translation is La Mesa de Café.
La Mesa de Cafe.
Yeah, la mesita del comedor.
Okay.
So just like the little table.
The little
Basically.
table. Okay.
All right. Well, we watched that. Me and Miles watched that on Friday. What did you think, Miles? You actually liked it more than I did, which is funny
Okay.
because you didn't want to watch it at all. You were so you almost
stop.
left.
Stop saying that I liked it more than you did. You're making it sound like I liked this movie. I thought it was an okay movie. I'm still like, I had tried for weeks. You've been trying for weeks to get me to watch this film.
You've been talking
And-
about this movie nonstop. How much you love
Have
it?
I?
I'm just kidding. No.
I mean, like, honestly, I don't want to spoil anything in this movie because if you go and watch it, if you like horror movies and you like being shocked by just like grotesque stuff,
Is it a horror movie though?
I
I
wouldn't
mean,
call
I
it a
didn't
horror
watch
movie.
this.
it's
so
pretty
I've-
horrific. It's
It has,
pretty horrific.
it has a horrific thing happen in it. I would call it a black comedy more so than a horror
Oh,
movie.
who's the horror denier now?
Well, I mean,
Oh, I didn't
one-
even ask you this week. Is The Graduate a horror movie?
No, it's not.
Existential horror.
Yeah.
one horrific thing happens in the movie, and then
One
the rest
horrific
of the movie,
thing? I mean, but that's a central point of the entire movie
I
is
know,
the horrific thing that happens.
I'd call it it's a dark comedy more so than a horror movie, in my opinion.
I don't think there's anything funny about what happened.
no,
it's
but
really sad and depressing.
It is, yeah, it's a devastatingly sad movie, but a lot of the like what follows is like just ridiculous things. Like okay, no spoilers. Something very, very horrific happens. That's like the central point of the movie, and there's lots and lots and lots of blood, and then it hard cuts to another character at the supermarket, and like over the, like the intercom, you hear super absorbent towels on aisle 6. There's like a lot of shit like that in it, where it's kind of fucking funny. Like, in
I
that-
mean, okay, there were a couple laugh movements.
yeah, it's a dark comedy. That's the point.
Yeah, okay.
Should we not spoil it? Who cares?
Don't
I
spoil
mean,
it.
I
Don't
don't.
spoil it.
No, I feel like this
This
is
is
a
a-
movie that would be ruined by spoilers
Okay.
if
It's a new
people
movie,
did choose
sounds
to
Yeah,
like.
watch
I know
it.
what happens,
Yeah.
and it kind of makes me not want to watch it.
I have
Just
no
'cause I already
idea.
know.
Yeah.
I
I'd
feel
never
like the
even heard-
shock factor would have been
it's a movie that you should definitely, if you're going to watch it blind.
Okay. Because
It's-
I know
Yeah.
nothing about
Okay.
this movie except that it's apparently called The Coffee Table.
Yeah.
That's it. And
it's-
apparently something horrific happens. Now I know.
It's an okay movie. I wasn't like in love with it or anything. It actually it made me kind of want to rewatch The Death of Dick Long. Kind of a
Keep on
similar-
mentioning that movie. I've never seen it, but
I wanted to see it. It had a fantastic
Yeah,
trailer.
you're the person who told me to watch it.
I know. Because I saw the trailer and I was like, "Have you seen this trailer? Like, it's a great trailer." And then I didn't watch it, but I wanted.
Which
to.
also isn't a movie I'm super in love with, but it's similar in the fact that it's a dark comedy that revolves around a very, very shocking event.
Yeah.
So I liked it. I don't know if you want to watch a fucked up dark comedy, the Coffee Table, it's on Prime. It's like $2 to rent. So
yeah.
check it out. Did anybody else watch anything this week?
No.
I've been rewatching Gilmore Girls. with
Nice,
Rosie.
dude.
Oh my.
Fucking
Yeah.
Hey,
It's not a real name.
I got Rosie into
I
that
will
show.
follow you anywhere. Yeah, I'd recommend it because I grew up watching it with my sister. We used
so
to watch
did
it
I.
all the time, and then I was, it's a good show. It's a very well written show.
yeah, it's
It's surprising how many of us on this podcast have watched Gilmore Girls.
it's super fast paced. Like apparently their scripts are like twice as long as like normal like television scripts.
There's
because
tons of dialogue.
They just fucking keep going and going.
Yeah.
It's very
a lot to
snappy.
take in.
Sean
yeah.
Gunn's in it.
It's a
Yeah, he is.
Plays
yeah.
a weirdo.
And Melissa McCarthy. She's
Yeah, he plays a raccoon again.
Sam from Supernatural plays a character named Dean.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
What a time! What a time to be alive.
I also watched a movie called My Old Ass last week. Do you guys know about this movie?
No.
It's like a coming of age movie about a 18-year-old girl who does some shrooms with her friends, and then because she does so many shrooms, it summons her future self, who is played by Aubrey Plaza, her 39-year-old self, I believe it was, and then
I've heard this.
for whatever reason, that allows her the ability to call Aubrey Plaza. So like most of the movie is just Aubrey Plaza giving her younger self like advice, basically. It's okay. I kind of feel like it wastes that. I think that's like a really interesting plot, and I feel like it kind of wastes it a little bit. But I mean, it's fine if you just want like kind of a fun coming of age movie. I hate that title.
It's a
though.
fucking awful
My
title.
Old
dude.
Ass.
Yeah.
I mean, we're saying it wrong. It should be like, my old ass. Like
That doesn't make it any better.
we actually
My old ass.
Oh yeah, I'll watch that. Yeah.
we actually talked about this director's other movie a few years ago, The Fallout. You remember that? That's the Jenna
Oh.
Ortega school shooter movie.
Yeah.
So this
Interesting.
is Megan Park is her name. This is her second film. My old ass.
Interesting.
I don't know.
I
It was-
did like the Fallout. I mean, I didn't love it, but I liked it.
Yeah.
I'm intrigued. Cool. Okay.
It's for free on Prime or something. That's why I watched it. I was like late at night and I was like scrolling and I was like, oh, my old ass. Okay. I like Aubrey Plaza in it. I wish she was in it a little bit more, but
Yeah, Aubrey Plaza is a great actress. I've
She
been
is.
watching a lot of Parks and Rec recently. I been rewatching through the series. I haven't seen it in a couple years, and actually, I think like Ron and Rosie were watching an episode, and I was like, a couple weeks ago, and I was like, man, I should rewatch that again. So yeah, I'm in season 7 now, almost done with it. But
isn't the last season not that good?
it is
Yes.
not. It is not very good, but it's a wrap-up season, and I finished things that I
Is
started.
Rob
I'm not a
Lowe
quitter.
in the later seasons of that?
No, they cut him out. I think either at the beginning of season 6 or
Whack.
like halfway through season
Yeah,
6.
He
something
does
like
that
that.
on shows. He just leaves.
Well,
He does that on The West
They-
Wing,
I-
but he
kinda
comes back.
makes
to
sense.
The
I
West
think his role was kind of done within the show, and he had the character development that he needed, and they were making a lot of changes, and they had kind of wrapped up his storyline. And what's her name? The one who plays Anne.
Rashida Jones.
Rashida Jones storyline. So they wrapped that up, and they had a nice send off for them. And then throughout like season 6 and season 7, they've been kind of wrapping up everybody else's storylines. in
Yeah,
the
it's
show.
not like what was the
Yeah.
dude? It was like Matt or something. Mark.
Mark.
Brandon.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Oh, he
it's-
just like leaves it into season 2, right?
Yeah,
Yeah.
because they're like, this character sucks. We should probably just get rid of him.
Well, at least they kind of wrote him off a little bit, where like they
Yeah.
actually like gave him like a goodbye type thing, and
they like literally say he's like, yeah, I don't have like anything to do here.
Yeah.
Like he's just they just didn't know what to do with him. They're just like, yeah, let's just go, just write him out.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Adam Scott's way better than that guy.
yeah.
In the show, I'm not trying to be like an asshole.
Yeah.
Adam Scott's great in like everything.
Yeah.
He's one of the greats.
Very good. Although I think he was mostly replaced by. Sorry to keep cutting you off, but I think he was. What's his name?
Rob Lowe?
No, man voices everything now. Oh god,
Chris Pratt.
Chris Pratt,
Yeah.
yeah, who was only supposed to be there like briefly, but they loved him so much they kept bringing him back, and then they're just like, yeah, just too many people, too many cooks.
Yeah. And I mean, Chris Pratt does an amazing job. He really carries that show through a lot of
He
it.
really does.
I
yeah.
was gonna say though about speaking of characters. I know that this is a different example because you said Mark Bendenowitz. is that
Brian
his name?
Banowitz.
He leaves but doesn't come back. Have you guys ever seen My Crazy Ex-Girlfriend? Is that what that show's called?
Yeah.
The
Yeah.
Wes Covina based
Is that that
musical.
musical show?
West Covina.
That show does something
California.
interesting where a main character leaves in season 2 and then comes back played by a different actor, but the show actually gives like an in-show reason for why he looks so different, and it totally works. And I actually really like that actor that comes back too. Maybe we should talk about that show sometime. That's like a guilty pleasure
Man,
of mine.
It's fun.
I just don't really
I like
wanna
that show a
watch
lot.
it.
I genuinely think it's a pretty good show.
I just don't like musicals. That's
It's a
the
good
thing.
show.
It's funny.
I watched a couple with you
Scovina.
when we were living in Portland. It's
Yeah.
fine.
the
California.
building where they did all the establishing shots for like the office for Crazy Ex-Girlfriend was right near like a couple miles away from where Ron and Rosie used to
I'm just
live.
gonna
Yeah.
dox Ron
Yeah.
and Rosie like that.
Used to live.
yeah, we used to
Yeah.
live in West Covina,
They
but
live
not
very,
anymore.
very far now. You'll never find them.
Yeah.
Here's their address. Mark Bendenowitz.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, it's a good show.
Yeah.
Fucking Jason doesn't want to watch it.
I don't like musicals. I don't know. Like
It's a good show.
you have to go watch Wicked, loser,
Isn't it like 2.5 hours?
probably. And
No
it's only
way.
part 1.
What?
Yeah, I think
The
so.
second
I think,
part's just Wizard of Oz.
This is all just a prequel to the new Wizard of Oz movie they're gonna make.
Yeah, somehow they have to link this one up with the Oz Great and Powerful, and then Wizard of Oz to create the Oz cinematic universe. You know?
Oh, that would be just so much fun. Are they going to link it up with the old like Showtime TV show? Or
Yeah,
was
the
that
HBO.
Have you guys ever
HBO.
seen the
Oz?
Return to Oz? That's like the sequel. That's like
no.
Oh, you know what? I remember. Okay, first of all, I remember when I was a kid, I thought Oz, the prison show,
Yeah.
was somehow linked to it.
No.
And it's like, no, it's very much not. But no, I remember Return of Oz. Isn't it like creepy? or
Yeah, I've
something?
never seen it, but everybody says like if they saw it as a kid, it's like traumatizing.
Like I have vague memories of watching like parts of that as a kid and it being very creepy, but I don't remember much. No.
The HBO show is kind of a prequel to Wizard of Oz. I'm just kidding.
Really?
Yeah.
By the way,
dissociation.
Wicked is Blake's worst nightmare. It's 2 hours and 40 minutes.
Oh my God, is it really?
That's like 6 bathroom
Fuck.
breaks for you.
Yeah.
Fuck, I don't want to see that. Whatever. Give me something to complain about in our wrap up video. All right, does anybody else have anything to say?
No.
Well, we gotta talk about our schedule, yeah.
Oh yeah.
Oh yeah. So for next week, I'm gonna be picking the next one. I'm gonna be doing 10 Things I Hate About You.
Awesome. I haven't seen that
Never
in like
seen it.
fucking 2 decades.
Really?
Great
Never seen it.
movie.
Oh man, that's awesome. Yeah. No,
Great.
it's a great movie, yes.
Yeah, great movie. It's been on my shelf forever. It's just one that I really like. I really appreciate it. Heath Ledger's best role, in my opinion.
Joseph Gordon-Levitt.
Yeah.
Yeah, Joseph Gordon-Levitt.
JGL.
Yeah.
My man.
JGL
So
lately.
I've
Come
been
back to us. Joseph.
honestly ever since we started this podcast, this has been a movie that I've been wanting to watch, but the timing just never really has worked out or seemed right. But
Nothing like
yeah.
Christmas time. to-
Exactly. And then after that, we're going to the week following, because of the holidays and stuff, our schedules are just really packed. So we do have an unreleased episode covering. Should we reveal what it's covering, or should we just reveal that?
we
next
can
week?
reveal that next week.
Okay. And then we are also going to be doing another surprise Christmas themed movie the week after, and the week after that.
Gonna be Blake's mom's pick.
Yes.
Potentially.
And then
Then the week after, we're doing a 2024 wrap up where we'll just kind of talk about movies we saw this year. So Jason may or may not show up.
I don't watch new movies.
The only movie I know he saw for sure was Speak No Evil, and that's because we saw it together.
Yeah, I think that may have been
The only movie.
I saw in theaters this year.
Well, I hope you have a lot to say about it.
Maybe I'll just watch a couple.
It's been an interesting year. I think I've only been to the theater like a handful of times, but it's been a lot of the blockbusters, honestly, which it's just been a funky year for me in general.
I feel like for the first half of the year, I was at the theaters a lot because I have that AMC A-lister or whatever.
Yeah.
So I feel like I was at the theaters.
I really want to
get.
get back in the rhythm of watching new
I've only
films,
been to
really.
one movie this year, and it's a movie that Blake's been to too, and also Ron. So yeah,
And it'll be a fun episode.
Yeah.
I'm excited to talk about the 2024 films
This year in cinema.
this
Yes.
year in cinema. Well, thank you for listening. Thank you for bearing with me. I'm kind of a little under the weather, so my voice is ugly. So, thanks.
yeah.
We'll see you next week for 10 Reasons I Dislike You. Is that what it's called?
No,
10 Reasons for Not
10
Dating My
Things I Hate
Teenage
About
Daughter.
You.
What is it? No.
no, it's 10 Things I Hate About You. And
Never seen it. I'm excited.
12 Angry
It's
Reasons.
Angry
great.
Men.
Yeah. It's
Dozen, a dozen things I hate.
it's the best modern Shakespeare adaptation.
a dozen disdainful.
Boz Lerman
Males.
wants a word.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Bye.
Bye.
Bye.